At 7:58 p.m., the Civic Arts Pavilion in North Harbor switched from applause to alarm. Red strobes fired across the nave. A rolling fire curtain dropped from the proscenium and thudded into the stage deck. On the lobby's east wall, a 12-foot video panel froze on the image of the state's lieutenant governor with a staffer inside a hotel room mirror. The caption time-stamped the upload at 7:52. Outside on Harbor Avenue, two clusters formed, supporters by the fountain, protesters by the steps, and merged into a push against the barricades. A smoke pot hissed 3 storefronts down and drifted toward the entry doors. At 8 p.m., a loading dock gate on the north side came down and kept going. The steel edge pinned a person at the waist against a granite bollard and held fast for 3 seconds. The control switch inside the dock's secure cage sat turned to manual. A freight elevator pinged and opened on an empty car. A security camera above the dock blinked, threw a colored bar across the screen, and went dark for 6 seconds. The badge reader at the dock door flashed green twice within 1 second and logged both accepts. The person under the gate was 28-year-old logistics coordinator Maya Ortiz. 2 stagehands lifted and shoved until the gate ratcheted up a foot. A production manager hit the override with a lock key and held it until sirens flooded the alley. Medics worked at 8:06. Police established a perimeter at 8:11. A USB drive bobbed in the sump at the base of the loading ramp, caught against a drain grate. Inside, a moderator stood at a podium with a sheaf of questions and watched a fire curtain hold a straight line. The candidate, Lieutenant Governor Adrian Vail, moved toward a side exit with his chief of staff and stopped at the threshold when a camera crew cut his path. North Harbor sits on a shallow bay, a capital city with ferry horns, a stone capitol, and a skyline that breaks at an old shipyard turned arts district. The Civic Arts Pavilion anchors that district. A former foundry with a glass roof, a 2-bay stage, and a loading alley that runs parallel to a brick service corridor, the Vail Town Hall and Unity Gala occupied both halves of the building, seats and cameras in the nave, donors on the mezzanine, and catering through the dock. Lieutenant Governor Adrian Vail, 50, front-runner for governor, ran the event on a tight clock, a televised town hall, then a donor reception. His staff was small and direct. Chief of Staff Helena Pike, Security Advisor Brant Kiefer, Communications Director Liam Rowe, Scheduler Tessa Lynn, and Logistics Coordinator Maya Ortiz. The mezzanine held donor booths and a quiet room. The dock fed the stage with risers and cases. A camera hub in a locked closet pushed feeds to a control room near the catwalk stairs. Building access ran through badge readers that logged every door open, schedules stacked without slippage until 1 feed, 1 gate, and 1 upload landed within minutes of each other. The hidden piece, a private relationship, did not enter with fanfare. It arrived from a queue and hit a screen. The rest followed in sequence. The day began with deliveries and checks. At 9:05 a.m., trucks dropped truss, drape, and cases. At 11:40, the city fire inspector spot-checked egress and signed the panel sheet. At 2:16, a contractor tested the fire curtain. Down and up, clean travel. At 3:12, a vendor set 2 donor kiosks on the mezzanine and asked for a power drop. At 4:07, a staff runner signed out a lock key for the dock gate override. At 5:22, a catering crew staged hotboxes in the brick corridor. At 6:31, the moderator arrived. At 7:02, a warm-up act left the stage. At 7:20, seating finished. At 7:33, cameras went to tally. At 7:38, a portable access terminal connected to the building's security network and authenticated with a temporary admin token. The token, created 72 hours earlier, enabled camera maintenance mode on 3 feeds, Dock 1 North, Hub Corridor, and Stage Right Ladder. The rest of the grid stayed live. The hub closet recorded no keycard entry. The portable terminal sat on a cart parked in an alcove. At 7:41, the loading dock gate control switched to manual from inside the secure cage. The cage lock showed no forced entry. The sign-out sheet for the cage key bore a scrawl, initials BK at 7:45, a phone associated with the account NHAVL Quiet, connected to the mezzanine quiet room access point. 2 devices paired there for 90 seconds. At 7:48, a USB stick labeled Press rolled into a pocket of a donor-branded tote. At 7:49, the signage PC in the East Lobby loaded a playlist with an extra asset, a file named Loop B.mp4. At 7:52, the signage PC played it. The loop held for 11 seconds, 4 photos from a hotel room, 2 reflective mirror shots, 2 texts on a bedspread, tagging Adrian Vale official and Almea Ortiz. The captions referenced times and places. The upload on social media matched the file on screen and was scheduled via a third-party tool at 5:03 p.m. from a device that authenticated through the quiet room access point. At 7:53, security radio traffic noted visuals compromised East Lobby. The panel in the control room showed the East signage player in ads-only mode. The operator canceled the playlist, but the file requeued. At 7:54, a smoke pot ignited on Harbor Avenue, 15 yards from the main doors. The device was consumer grade, bought from a pop-up fireworks shop 2 days earlier. The fuse stub lay under a planter. A person in a dark cap flicked something in the trash and walked north. At 7:56, the fire curtain input registered test arm. The key switch in the stage-left lockbox had been turned to arm earlier and left in place, against standard practice. At 7:57, the curtain command triggered and the head box released. The curtain fell evenly, confirmed the bottom limit, and held. The cue light on the box displayed manual. No fire condition existed. The horn in the nave sounded regardless. In the alley, the dock gate stood in the up position. A Pelican case sat by the ramp. Maya moved toward it at 7:58 with a manifest in one hand and a radio clipped to her pocket. A steel bollard stood a foot from the gate track. A credit card piece of wood wedged under the dock door hinge edge to keep it from latching. The badge reader next to the door flashed green twice in 1 second. The log recorded 2 accepts, vendor Freight 106 and NHAVL staff SEC. The first belonged to a caterer on break in the mezzanine staff canteen and was logged as present. You inside. The second belonged to the security advisor, Brant Kiefer. At 8U, the dock gate motor spun. The manual switch inside the cage sat turned to lower. The gate descended steadily. Maya pivoted toward the switch box, looked at the cage, and reached for the emergency mushroom stop on the exterior column. The gate edge hit her at the waist, forced her into the bollard, and pinned her. The emergency stop failed to halt the gate because the motor was under manual command inside the cage. A stagehand reached the box at 8:12, slammed the key override, and reversed. The gate rose. Maya went to her knees and then to her side. A USB drive slid from the ramp's edge into the sump slot and caught against the grate. The Dock 1 camera blinked a test color bar and cut for 6 seconds. It came back to a view of chaos. Inside, the moderator froze. The candidate moved toward stage left, then toward the lobby, then toward a side exit. The comms director pulled the signage plug. The fire panel recorded manual key activation at 7:56 and evacuate at 7:58. Staff herded donors toward the mezzanine stair and guests toward the main doors. Protesters outside pushed against the barricades. Supporters yelled back. 2 officers formed a lane. A third retrieved a rolling cart for medics at the dock. At 8:06, medics worked Maya in the alley. At 8:11, police secured the alley and pushed staff back behind a tape line. At 8:15, a building engineer rolled the gate fully up and yanked the cage key from the switch. At 8:17, a detective marked the drain, the sump, the USB, and the hinge. Wedge. At 8:19, the mezzanine quiet room lock showed a badge open. At 8:21, the communications director stood in the control room and scrolled a list of assets. At 8:24, the candidate stood in the side vestibule and lifted a prepared statement printed on 3 stapled pages. The immediate aftermath: split. A patient under a thermal blanket. A dock gate turned off at the breaker. A signage PC unplugged. A crowd divided by portable barriers. An alley with oil stains, chalk marks, and a bright plastic drive in a metal grate. The sequence recorded itself. A scheduled upload, a fire curtain drop, a dock gate command, a camera flicker, a body under, steel, and a control switch set to manual by a key that was signed out hours earlier. Detective Dana Ritchie took the case at 8:43 p.m. She split the work into tracks: dock mechanism and control, camera and access logs, signage and scheduling, crowd and exterior devices, and movements of named staff. Dock mechanism and control. First. The scissor gates motor control panel recorded a manual switch throw at 7:41 p.m. and a continuous lower input beginning at 18:01. The lower input came from the keyed selector inside the cage, not the exterior emergency. Down, up, switch. The cage lock showed no damage. The cage key sign-out log recorded ID BK at 4:07 p.m., marked Test. The gate's safety edge was operational and would stop descent on contact if under normal command. Under keyed manual, it would not. The mushroom emergency stop. On the exterior column could not interrupt a locked manual lower command unless the key was returned to neutral. A physical exam of the key switch found fresh micro-scratches on the brass faceplate and a thin film of silicone above the tumbler, ADC, residue used in lock maintenance. The film matched lubricant in a service kit in the security advisor's trunk. The mushroom stop button showed skin oil transfer under powder, but no conductive residue consistent with arcing. No surprise, it's a low current control. The bollard showed fresh paint transfer to denim fibers recovered from Maya's jeans. The hinge edge of the dock door held a sliver of wood under its leaf, a shimming credit card wedge to prevent latch engagement, collection marked and bagged. Camera and access logs next. The building security system recorded a temporary admin token enabling maintenance mode on Dock 1 North, Hub Corridor, and Stage Right Ladder at 7:38 p.m. The token's alias, Temp Maint HP. The building IT manager said only one person with those initials had requested such access in the last month: Helena Pike, the chief of staff. The portable access terminal used for the enable was one of 2 loaned to the campaign's vendor ops team for the event. The hub closet lock showed no entries via key at the time of enable. The portable unit does not require door open for feed maintenance. Badge logs placed vendor freight 106 at the dock reader at 8 Yesquak and staff SEC at 8 Mats. The first belonged to a caterer whose own device placed him in the staff canteen at that minute. The second belonged to security advisor Brant Kiefer. The double accept within 1 second indicated a piggyback. 2 badges presented nearly simultaneously while the door hummed open. Dock 1 camera showed a band across the image from 7:59:56 to 8:02. Stage right ladder cut to color bars for 6 seconds at 7:59:58. The feed returned after, signage and scheduling aligned on a mezzanine node. The lobby signage PC executed a playlist change at 7:49 p.m. A new asset, Loop Bebot MP4, entered the playlist with a source path to a tenant share accessible only from the Quiet Room network port. That port authenticated at 7:45 to a device. Name, NHAVL Quiet. The third-party posting tool queued the same asset to social media at 5:03 p.m. and sent at 7:52 p.m. The queue originated from a device that matched the communications director's phone fingerprint for screen dimension and OS version. The content itself, The 4 images carried XIF tags showing an airdrop at 5:02 p.m. to that device from a second device with a different name. The airdrop location pinged the quiet room access point. Crowd and exterior devices yielded the smoke pot, fuse stub, and a small bag of spent capsules 2 blocks north, consumer smoke pellets with residual dye consistent with the haze outside. A receipt from a pop-up fireworks kiosk 4 miles away matched a cash purchase at 3:22 p.m. A security camera in that store showed a man in a ball cap with a day pass lanyard around his neck. The day pass style matched those printed by the vendor. Ops team at noon. The lanyard badge found later in a trash can by the harbor was torn and smeared with tape adhesive. Staff movements provided a path through all of it. Lieutenant Governor Vale's badge pinged the stage left door at 7:56:10 for a view and the side vestibule at 8:24. His phone remained on Do Not Disturb from 7:30 onward and did not associate to the building network. His quiet room access card was in Helena Pike's wallet with a note, "Hold for candidate." Helena Pike's movements. Badge to mezzanine quiet room at 4:58 p.m., then again at 5:01 and 6:56. Her phone accessed the quiet room port at 7:45 via a tether to the portable terminal used to enable camera maintenance. Her print appeared on the portable terminal's trackpad. Her initials matched the token alias Temp Maint HP. Her jacket sleeve fibers matched a smear on the stage right ladder guardrail where the fire curtain key was found, turned to arm. Brant Kiefer's trail. Signed out the dock cage key at 4:07 p.m., carried it in a lanyard pouch into the alley at 7:55, badged the dock door at 8:04 alongside another badge, stood under the Dock 1 camera during its color bar flicker, and stood inside the cage at 8:01 by physical positioning when the locked manual lower command logged. A 6-second gap in Dock 1 feeds aligned with his position at the control. His trunk held a service kit with silicone lube matching the faceplate smear and a spare wedge used to hold hollow core doors open on job sites. Liam Rowe, the communications director, queued the third-party tool at 5:03 p.m., loaded the signage, asset at 7:49 from the quiet room port, and unplugged the East signage PC at 7:58. His phone's lock screen captured a photo of the loop playing. The timestamp matched the signage feed. The USB drive in the sump carried 2 copies of the same 4 images and a text note file with time and room data. Its metal shell bore scratches consistent with sliding down concrete. The drain water held traces of silt and a flake of bright donor tote plastic. A floor manager stated she saw Maya with a tote at 7:54, headed for the dock to move a case to a sponsor activation booth. By noon the next day, Detective Ritchie had a sequence. An upload. Queued in the quiet room, a signage asset added at the same port, a fire curtain armed and dropped while no fire burned. A dock gate switched to manual and lowered from inside a locked cage by someone with the key. A camera feed flickered for 6 seconds at the exact moment that mattered. A double badge except at the dock door within 1 second. A person pinned. A device in a drain. A crowd outside going loud enough to drown the motor's hum. The question was not whether chaos followed a reveal. It was who moved the parts that made the chaos the cover for a fatal gate. The first twist came from a device that did not stay long. A BLE beacon log at the pavilion tracked Maya's phone entering the mezzanine quiet room vicinity at 4:59 p.m., leaving at 5:05, then entering the dock alley zone at 7:56. At 8:01, the beacon stopped seeing it. A municipal camera on Harbor Avenue recorded a man in a cap slipping a phone-sized object to another person by the harbor rail at 8:06, and both walking in separate directions. The second person's posture matched Brant Kiefer's frame. The second twist tied to the fire curtain. The building inspector's sheet at 11:40 a.m. showed the curtain key returned to off. At 6:52 p.m., a photo in the production WhatsApp group used to confirm staging captured the stage right ladder guardrail with the curtain key and arm. The hand in frame wore a ring that matched Helena Pike's, oval face, flat bezel. A later lab exam found a film of the same silicone lube from Brandt's kit on the key barrel face, suggesting one kit was used to quiet both locks. The third twist came from the quiet room. A donor lounge key log placed Helena inside at 4:58. Then Daria, no, different person. In this case, Tessa, the scheduler, at 5:08, then Liam at 5:02. An airdrop exchange occurred at 5:02 between a device name matching Maya's phone and Liam's. Maya's calendar held a 4:45 quiet entry and a 5:15 doc check. The air dropped. Images moved to Liam's device. The third-party tool queue set at 5:03 posted at 7:52. The same asset loaded into signage at 7:49 from that same port. The quiet room had a single network jack that bridged to an admin VLAN for donor reporting. It should not have been accessible to guest devices. The portable terminal used by Helena created a short-lived pass-through at that jack. The fourth twist shifted attention to an outside line. A pop-up fireworks kiosk clerk remembered selling 2 bags of smoke pellets and 1 canister at 3:22 p.m. to a tall man with a day pass on a lanyard. The day pass style matched those printed by vendor ops, but the barcode on the torn lanyard found later matched Event Ops Brandt. The smoke placed at the door guaranteed evacuation noise and outside commotion. The fifth twist connected to the gate control. A 6-second Dock 1 camera gap at 7:59:56 corresponded with a portable terminal issuing a test pattern overlay, a maintenance mode function. Helena's temp maint HP token enabled that mode. The overlay suppressed recording while showing a color bar at the monitor. The timing bridged the exact handoff of door control and lowered the chance of catching a hand on the interior keyed selector. The sixth twist altered the expected motive map. A second set of drafts appeared on a flash drive recovered from a back pocket of the comms director's jacket. These drafts carried titles Statement if images leak before stage and Statement if images leak after stage. The metadata author was Liam. A third file, Apology Veil V1, had been created a week earlier, revised twice, and sat unused. The presence of statements confirmed expectation of a leak, not the origin. The presence of a V1 apology indicated where the comms timeline aimed if order held. Order did not hold. The seventh twist changed what killed Maya. The medical examiner issued a supplemental report. Primary injuries consistent with crush force at hip and abdomen with gate edge imprint. Secondary blunt trauma from contact with the bollard. Timing within a minute of gate descent beginning. No evidence of a fall or trip. No defensive marks on forearms consistent with a struggle. She reached for a switch, not a person. The gate could only descend under manual locked command or a fault. There was no fault indicated. The command came from the keyed selector in the cage. The eighth twist landed in Brandt's pocket. A photo recovered from his iCloud unused trash showed the dock cage key on a lanyard at 7:49 with the caption Test. His messages contained a single-line note to a number saved as HP. RPM at 0 until they see it. The timestamp was 7:42. The phrase matched Stage Manager, shorthand for House Music Down. Helena's device had deleted that chat thread. The backup retained headers. The ninth twist adjusted the candidate's role. A forensic image of a desktop in the Green RM folder contained a file, Stage Interrupt, Plan B, last opened. At 3:37 p.m., the file mapped 2 interrupt triggers, screen event, then evacuation. It assigned tasks with initials, LR for signage and social, HP for camera, HT, halt, BK for gateman to secure dock. A footnote added at 1:12 p.m. read, No faces on handoffs. The initials ML did not appear on the file. The initials HP, LR, BK did. The last twist closed the loop on the missing phone. A day after the event, a drone hobbyist posted footage of the harbor taken that evening. In a frame at 8:07, a phone splashed off the harbor wall 50 yards north of the pavilion. A still image showed a hand toss. A pause and zoom captured a metallic watch band matching Brandt's understage watch. The phone was never recovered. The BLE log and the harbor camera reflections placed it moving from mezzanine to dock to water within 15 minutes. These findings shifted the narrative from chaos after reveal to chaos assembled as a tool. The reveal came through a cue from the quiet room by Liam. The fire curtain dropped when a key was turned to arm by Helena and a switch tripped to manual. The dock gate lowered under locked command from inside a cage that Brandt unlocked and controlled. The cameras around the dock and hub corridor grayed out for 6 seconds under Helena's temporary maintenance token. The crowd outside surged under the push of consumer smoke placed by a day pass lanyard from vendor ops. In the alley, Maya moved toward a case and reached for an emergency stop that could not halt a manual command. The gate kept going. Arrests followed within 72 hours. Police arrested Brandt Kiefer on charges of second-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, criminal mischief, and computer trespass. They arrested Helena Pike on charges of conspiracy, computer, trespass, tampering with public safety equipment, and hindering prosecution. They arrested Liam Rowe on charges of computer trespass and reckless endangerment tied to triggering public panic with non-approved content on safety signage. Lieutenant. Governor Adrian Vail was not charged with homicide. Prosecutors charged him with obstruction of justice and falsifying business records based on false statements in initial reports and the use of an unlogged portable access token through his campaign. Pretrial motions narrowed scope. Defense 4. Brandt moved to suppress the dock control logs and camera maintenance overlays, arguing chain of custody gaps. The court admitted them as system records authenticated by vendor custodians. Defense for Helena moved to exclude the temp maint HP token evidence and the WhatsApp key photo, calling them prejudicial. The court admitted both, limiting the WhatsApp image to show key position, not commentary. Defense for Liam sought to sever. His case, the court severed with agreement. The prosecution built around sequence and control. A building engineer explained how the gate's keyed manual override bypassed the safety edge and why the exterior mushroom stop could not interrupt a locked lower input. He presented the control panel's log of a manual lower at 8U1 and the lack of fault codes. A vendor tech authenticated the camera maintenance overlay that created the 6-second color bar on Dock 1 and Stage Right ladder and tied it to Helena's temp maint HP token. A security expert aligned the dual badge accept and piggyback at 8U, crossed at the dock door with a quick hand-in-hand entry. Digital witnesses tracked the third-party scheduling queue at 5:03 p.m., the airdrop at 5:02 in the quiet room, the signage, asset load at 7:49, and the quiet room port authentication. A network administrator described the portable terminal's pass-through that allowed non-admin devices to source from an admin VLAN long enough to place a file on a tenant's share. A city inspector confirmed the fire curtain was armed when tested. Earlier, a WhatsApp photo from 652 captured the key and arm at Stage Right ladder. The inspector testified that arming outside test windows violated protocol. Medical testimony fixed cause of death to crush injuries from a descending steel gate and listed time of injury as within a minute of gate motion. A footwear expert matched scuffs on the cage step to Brandt's shoe pattern. A locksmith visually matched the silicone residue on the key face to the same brand found in Brandt's trunk. An event tech identified Helena's ring in the WhatsApp image and testified to her handling the ladder key. For Brandt, defense argued he toggled manual for a misaligned gate and never intended harm, that the emergency stop failed due to maintenance neglect, and that camera glitches were common. For Helena, defense argued she used maintenance mode at staff's request after a donor complained about privacy, that the WhatsApp image was a staging shot, and that key positions were routine. Per Liam, tried separately, defense argued signage. Content was loaded to prepare for expected media exposure and was intended for a private holding screen, not public broadcast. Prosecution answered by pinning times to inputs. Manual, lower begun while Maya stood in the lane, 6-second camera gap during the critical seconds, fire curtain armed while no test was scheduled, smoke pot placed in front to force an evacuation timeline, and a dock wedge inserted to keep a door from latching. They introduced the Stage Interrupt Plan B file mapping roles, LR, HP, BK, and the note No faces on handoffs. They played the drone frame of a phone thrown into the harbor at 8:07 and the BLE trail ending at the dock and then moving out the west entrance. Verdicts came stacked. Brant Kiefer, guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of tampering with physical evidence, guilty of computer trespass, acquitted on criminal mischief regarding the smoke pot due to insufficient linkage beyond the lanyard. Helena Pike, guilty of conspiracy and computer trespass, guilty of tampering with public safety equipment, guilty of hindering prosecution. Liam Rowe, guilty of computer trespass, not guilty on reckless endangerment. The court found signage misuse did not alone create the panic. Lieutenant Governor Adrian Vale, guilty of obstruction and falsifying business records. The jury found his statements and unlogged equipment facilitated breaches and misled first reports. He resigned. Sentences followed. Brant received 20 years to life on murder and concurrent terms on the other counts. Helena received 12 years on conspiracy and tampering. Liam received 2 years probation and community service. Vale received a suspended sentence on obstruction and fines on records falsification. The pavilion replaced gate controls with interlock logic that ignored manual lower commands when the safety edge tripped and added tamper alarms to feed maintenance. The city barred portable admin terminals at tenant events. The sequence held firm. At 5:02 p.m., airdrop. At 5:03, queue. At 7:38, camera maintenance enabled. At 7:41, dock gate manual engaged. At 7:49, signage asset loaded. At 7:52, upload. At 7:56, fire curtain armed. At 7:58, curtain down. At 8:01, dock gate lowered under keyed manual command. At 8:12, override reversed. At 8:06, medics worked the alley. At 8:07, a phone splashed into the harbor. At 8:11, tape lines went up. The chaos outside masked the control inputs inside. The legal record translated those inputs into convictions. A manual gate closed that ignored a safety edge. A 6-second camera blind under a staff token. A key turned to arm a curtain as a screen. Carried a loop that should not have been there. A lanyard at a fireworks kiosk. A wedge to hold a door latch off. A phone thrown into water. A plan on a desktop mapping interrupt roles with initials. None required an explanation of feeling. Each required a hand on a switch, a key in a lock, a token on a terminal, or a mouse on a playlist. The pavilion rewired. The campaign dissolved. The harbor wall dried. The loading dock gate now halts on contact under all modes. The mezzanine quiet room network jack sits behind a locked faceplate with a tamper log. The stage right ladder key lives in an audited box. The alley paint still shows a brighter stripe where a bollard scuffed denim that night. Consider the triggers that turned a private reveal into a fatal chain. One port in a quiet room. One key turned to arm. One token named for its owner. One manual switch inside a cage. One 6-second gap where a camera showed color bars, and one gate that did not stop until it did.